one of my top students decided to become a fitness business coach and started poaching our community, like violently, like to a point where like he pretended he was one of our coaches.
All right, welcome to another episode of Feedback. I'm your guy, Nick Alfano, and we have an interesting guest on probably, there's only been a few episodes so far, so if you're catching these like live in real time, this is going to be one of the most powerful dudes that you've seen hit this chair. We've known each other for about a year now, right, off and on, and he came into my world because he moved down the street in Franklin, Tennessee. I will let him tell his story, but his name is Vince DelMonte. He is a Canada/American/Canadian American. We'll probably get into that as well. So anytime I catch him here in Tennessee, he's here for 5-6 days at a time. Then he buzzes back to up north. I try to snatch a conversation with him. So we're going to do this one live. My man has been in the organic fitness marketing space for 18 plus years. Like he is literally the guru, everybody knows him in that space for that reason. He started out helping skinny dudes get muscles and essentially has really changed and crafted his message over the years. Like anybody, he's been on his journey, which I'll let him get into. And over the last 7 years, he's kind of changed the game around that. And really in the last 2 years, which we'll get into, he's really, really become, I would say, the most trusted person in the fitness space, specific to like the online quote unquote gurus. He doesn't call himself that, so we won't keep saying that word. But the reality is when you meet this guy, and if you get a chance to check his content after this episode, you'll know what I'm talking about. You've all heard know, like, and trust. You've heard it a million times. This guy has redefined what that means in the fitness space. So I'll stop talking. We'll introduce my man, Vince.
Thanks, man. No, you can keep talking. That sounded great.
What's going on, brother? Yeah.
Keep going. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, I've been going for a while now. But yeah, just to clarify, I am Canadian. Been in the process of getting a green card for almost 3 years now. It's been a heck of a process. We just got denied because kids' partner and me are not fully vaccinated, if you can believe that. You've got to be fully vaccinated, not just the new ones, but the
You're talking about the old
ones.
School child, like the TB, like
I don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah, the stuff we all got before we had to go to, or could go to school, I think.
Yeah,
was the rule,
and you
right?
need a booster too on the COVID one. So you need a booster, and we would have got green cards back in May when we went to Montreal, but now we have to fill out this religious exemption form, which is typically reserved for priests, nuns, and full-time pastors. Thank God my father has been a pastor for 19 years, so I'm going to have him write a letter. But I'm a legit Christian, man of faith, man of God, follower of Christ. And, I do my best to, live my life according to his ways. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But, been learning a lot over the last while between not confusing my will with God's will. And I thought it was his will for us to be here, but it's been obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And heading back to Toronto, the kids are back in school today, actually. And just taking it one day at a time, see if it's God's will to get back here. But, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so I would like to, how do we, I'm always interested in what I call the character arc of the male entrepreneur. And I've been an entrepreneur for 20-some years. You have as well. And I've been, coaching and helping, strictly male entrepreneurs. And it's always interesting to kind of see, their journey. And different evolutions, and you've gone through a lot. Again, we've only been close for a year, but I've been able to, surmise some of the things that you're dealing with currently. But let's go back to how it all started. Let's go back to OG Vince, first guy on YouTube to push fitness. Like what was working for you, not working for others. Let's go there first.
Yeah, I'm gonna hook everyone. I feel like I just woke up about 2 years ago. I feel like I've been sleeping my entire life until November 2022. So we'll go back and then I'll bring you to that month that changed my life. I grew up in a great home, great parents. My parents were followers of Christ. My dad was a pastor, as I was saying, full-time ministry. Now they weren't raised that way. They found Jesus in university. They were C&E Christians. So they just went to, Christmas and Easter services, but it wasn't personal. And then, they really figured out how to live their life according to God's standards and God's ways. And I was brought up into that home. My brothers, I have 2 younger brothers. And I think what I remember most about my childhood is like my family was close. Like family was everything. Old school Italian.
Old school Italian.
Family,
Yeah.
family. Like lots of screaming, but like lots of love. Grew up in a really solid home. And my dad was a runner, and he got me and my brothers into running. And it's probably one of the greatest gifts. I always kid around. It's probably the greatest gift that he gave us, because long distance running like really forged me, turned me into a mentally tough guy. What I didn't know, like a fighter, not so much like a physical fighter, but somebody who could withstand a lot. And I didn't realize how much running prepared me. So I was a skinny, scrawny pipsqueak type runner all through high school and through university. And, I loved running, but it's not exactly the physique that attracts you to the ladies. So I happened to live with all these buff dudes in university. And
Did they play a certain sport that you didn't do, or what do you mean by buff dudes?
they were just gym rats. They'd be
Okay.
like it was like living with the guys on Instagram today, like the guys that you see on your Explore page or Shredded. Those were my roommates.
Yeah, I played soccer my whole life, but then my sophomore year of college, I lived with the rugby team.
Right.
And that was people always ask like how I look now. What, you played soccer? But
Right.
my transition was I wasn't getting playing time. I started living in the weight room. I started hanging with the rugby guys, and they're just brick shit houses. So yeah, it sounds similar.
That all rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
So that all rubbed off on me, like just wondering what it would be like to have muscle on my body. So the theme you're going to hear through these stories is I was always trying to figure out, who am I? Even though I was raised in a Christian home and, my identity is a son of God, like I didn't feel like I fit in. I always felt like I was behind. I always felt average. And, I wasn't like good runner, but not a great runner. I was okay in school, but not great in school. I was always feeling like I was average. So I was always trying to like fit in. I was trying to prove myself. I was trying to be one of the cool Italian guys, try to fit in with the Genos. Like if you've seen Jersey Shore, those were my buddies. Like just imagine, those are the kind of guys I thought were cool and I was trying to be like. Silly me, but
We think we can all relate to that.
yeah,
by the way.
there are all those stages. So after university, I got a degree in exercise science, and I was supposed to be a phys ed teacher, but I missed my cutoff, which isn't very hard to do, which just tells you how I wasn't the sharpest knife in the cupboard. But I also wasn't, I worked really hard, but the amount of work I put into things, it just didn't seem to pay off. So I was frustrated with my running. I was frustrated with school because I put so much into it and didn't feel like I got a fair return. And after university, I got into the fitness industry as a personal trainer, working at the Guelph YMCA for $10 an hour. And I started personal training because I was doing it in my fourth year of university. And I thought it was a super cool career, even though I didn't look like I was a personal trainer. I was skinny Vinny still. So when university was over, I saw it as a chance to hang up my running spikes and start a career and try to make some money. And I actually fell in love with the fitness industry at the age of 22. I'm like, this is super cool.
What about it? What
I liked
specifically?
writing workout. I liked program design specifically. I was learning a lot from Charles Poliquin, the late Charles Poliquin, Ian King, Dr. John Berardi before he was a big deal. He was actually my exercise science professor in third year university. And I just fell in love with.
We just lost all the young guys on those names right there. I recognize them, but yeah.
If they don't know who those guys are, those guys.
No, but exactly.
Those guys,
yeah.
like if you're in the fitness industry, you have a job because of those guys.
Yeah.
The fitness industry wouldn't exist without those guys. So we all have them to thank. But those are the guys that inspired me to become good at what I did as a fitness coach. But what I really fell in love with was selling gym memberships and selling personal training packages. So at the gym I was working at, I had this great mentor, and he actually said, hey, you can make a lot more money building the PT department. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, when people come to the gym, it's your job to sell them a PT package. And then that's when I fell in love with the concept of writing your own paycheck, commissions, and becoming good at sales. And I was like, wow, I could sell 144 sessions, a $5,000-$6,000 package. And if I sold a certain amount, I'd make 20%. If I was below a certain amount, I'd make 10%. But I started to make a lot more money than
a $30 gym membership. Yeah.
I'm like, this is freaking cool. So I became really good at selling, and I loved it. It was a thrill. I just was good at it, and I enjoyed it. And in that time, my boss was also like a very serial entrepreneur. And this was like 2005. And he started pointing out these guys on the internet who were making money selling ebooks. So if you don't remember what an ebook is, it's basically like selling, it's like selling air.
It's a PDF. Yeah,
you're selling air. And I found out this guy, Anthony Ellis from New York, was selling this book on how to go from scrawny to brawny in 12 weeks. And he was charging $97 for it. And I thought, that is so cool. He's teaching people how to build muscle. He's a natural guy and he's making $97. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I looked into it and I found out he sold about 10 copies a day. And my first response is that was impossible. There's no way somebody can make $1,000 a day. That's just impossible. $30,000 a month. I didn't know anybody in my life who could make $1,000 a day. Sure enough, he was legit. And I found out where he learned how to market on the internet. And I went through the same company. It was called actually the Internet Marketing Center, run by a guy who unfortunately passed away in his late 20s, Corey Rudolph.
Sweet name, by the way.
Yeah,
just
Corey
straight
Rudolph.
to it. Internet Marketing Center.
That was it.
Come get it.
And they taught, and I learned, that's where I kind of, got exposed to the world of
digital marketing.
I was like, I'm in love. Love at first sight. I'm like, and I'm married. I would call that my baby. I was like, I married her right away. And I haven't fallen in love. I haven't fallen out of love ever since. So that was in 2005. I hired a mentor and I launched my first ebook, No Nonsense Muscle Building, which was for skinny guys, built on my original transformation. Kind of speeding up the story, I did that for 12 years. And I was getting into YouTube before it was like a thing. This is like when you go to internet marketing events in 2007 and 8, they're like, hey, you got to create video. I was like, video? People are like, video? Really? Like, how do you do that? And like, oh, you buy a flip cam for $150. I'm like, a flip cam? How do I use that? So that's where it was back then. Back then, all you did was article marketing to long form sales pages, 96-page sales letters. And then
96-page sales letters?
My sales page was like, probably took hours to read. Yeah,
and 100% still photos if there were photos.
Long. You remember those long pages? Yeah, that's how I made money originally. I loved it.
But this is when people's attention span wasn't 7 milliseconds, right?
People would actually read them.
Yeah, exactly. That's unheard of.
Oh, yeah. You split test a headline and you get a big bump in sales. You split test a PS and you get a bump in sales. These were the good old days. So I launched my online fitness business I started to get connected with guys. There's a small handful of guys who are all doing it. I got invited to this private mastermind in 2000 and I think it was 2008. And they're all guys way out of my league. I was surprised I got an invite. And then I saw like what they were doing and how much they were making. And I'm like, I'm in the right room. I didn't feel like I was in the right room, but this is where I want to stay. And I became friends with all these guys and I grew that to my goal is to make $1 million before the age of 30.
Real quick, can I pause you for a second?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that my listeners, because like some of the things that you're speaking about in that sentence in particular is very powerful for them to kind of either pause, rewind, and re-listen. I didn't feel like I belonged in that room. But when I got in that room, I realized like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of guys out there that aren't either putting themselves in the right room, and their story might be I'm we all know the sayings, lack of worthiness so on, right? Imposter syndrome. So they don't even enter the room, and then if they enter the room, sometimes they feel so small. They do everything they can to justify that confirmation bias of I knew I shouldn't be here. These guys are way out of my league.
Yeah.
And then they run for the hills. So like what was different about your experience? Because obviously you stayed in the room and you've done massive things, but it's because you went to the room, changed their mindset, and stayed in the room.
Yeah, I brought value in a weird kind of way. I've never actually told this story. There's not like a ton of details to it, but the head guy's name is Ryan Lee. And Ryan was older than me, had 4 kids. And when I went, I was single. So I was like, I was living my single days, and he had this event in, where was it? West Palm Beach. And I guess I met some hot girl when I was down there, and I invited her out to one of the nights, and I brought her, and he was so enamored that there was this beautiful girl with me at this event, and he was picking my brains like, oh man, and I just realized that my value was letting him live vicariously through my dates with her.
So to clarify, these weren't. So when you're a fitness marketer in your fitness marketing room, it's not these guys aren't all jacked and in shape, is what?
Some of them were. They're all like.
Okay.
Here's the interesting thing. Back then, like they weren't
Which doesn't mean you get the girl,
They
by the
were
way, because there's a
better
lot of guys that are behind this. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's put it this way. They were making their money because they were better marketers than they were at fitness.
Gotcha.
And that's what I quickly realized. Like, these guys are making money because they're freaking good marketers. Now, were they overweight? No. But were they bodybuilders? Heck no. They were all like very normal looking guys. But they knew how to come up with a hook. They knew how to write sales copy. They knew how to put together an offer. They knew how to get traffic. They knew how to do affiliate marketing, copyright. They had those high income skills. And I think one of the things I just learned from that interaction was like, I didn't have any value to bring to Ryan when it came to like helping him make more money. And that's when I quickly realized he doesn't need my money. I can bring value to people in ways that are not just, hey, I can only hang out with you if I can help you make more money because he doesn't need my money. But what he wanted was to be entertained by stories I told him about my date nights. I'm like, this is why you want to hang out with you. Oh, Vinny, you got to come on all these trips. Bring girls with you every time. I'm like, okay, sure. If you're going to teach me
But there's such a powerful lesson there because you just nailed it. Yeah.
It was huge. And then I learned it again a couple of years later when I was a part of Eben Pagan's mastermind. And Eben found out that I was a part of his group. And Eben, if you don't know, he was one of the OGs of internet marketing with like, you heard of Eben Pagan?
I don't know the name.
Oh,
no.
man.
Yeah.
He's like, he was David D'Angelo. He was the Double Your Dating guy.
Okay.
So way back he had a $20 million a year ebook business teaching guys how to double your dating.
Wow.
And then he became the marketer and he started to teach how he built a $20 million dating business. Again, this is back in 2008. So like 20 million then was like 100 million now.
Yeah.
So I learned that, again, my value wasn't necessarily my marketing knowledge, but Eben's super skinny. And when he found out I was in his mastermind and I was going out to his events in LA, he would say, can you train me? And I remember doing a consultation call with him and I asked him, what are you currently doing to get in shape? And he said, okay, I get up and I do 5 push-ups. I kid you not. And then I do like 3 chin-ups and then I walk the stairs.
Did he say the word
in my
chin-up?
apartment, like crazy numbers like that. And then I go up and down the stairs. And I said, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a second set tomorrow. And he goes, a second set?
He's like, I'm out. I was going to hire you, but this is already too much. Yeah.
He was a second set. I'm like, yeah, second set. And he was so blown away by the concept of a second set. I'm like, wow, is this all it takes? Like, my value is like offering this guy fitness knowledge. He doesn't need my business knowledge. So I realized, like, to connect with people, I can be of value to people in simply ways that they don't have expertise in. One of my expertises for Ryan was I attracted good-looking women and I had stories to tell. For Eben, it was
one more set.
One more set.
That's awesome. All right, so that's 08-ish, right? That's obviously pre-bubble maybe, or right around the crazy. Now, did you guys have that? Did you? Obviously, that was a housing market crash specific to the States.
I didn't even watch the news. I had no idea there was a
so that didn't hit you in Canada, right?
In 2008. I was in Canada then.
Yeah.
So it was all affiliate marketing back then. Affiliate marketing, launching new offers, email marketing. Some guys were getting into video marketing, YouTube. And then, it was really, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. That was the business model. And the more affiliates you had, the more money you'd make. So I got good at networking, had a great network. And then, affiliate launches started to fade out in 2011 to 2015. And guys wanted, 90% commission, then 100% commission, then 110% commission. And basically you're just like trading customer lists. And it started to get a little too transactional for me. And, I'm a pretty simple guy. I like creating content. I like creating programs. I like seeing transformations come in. So I made a couple moves in early 2000s that really like solidified my fitness business and partnerships. One with a pro bodybuilder, IFBB pro bodybuilder Ben Pekulski. We launched a continuity offer that did very, very well. And I really, really loved recurring revenue. So I launched a lot of programs that were from month to month with workout of the month. I had a whole bunch: Live Large TV, Maximize Your Muscle 2.0, Hypertrophy Max. So I love the concept of waking up to money on the first of every month. Subscriptions and not having to rely on getting new cash every month because it was so stressful to generate. Like, I got to find new business when you could just have people getting a new workout of the month. So I mastered that model.
Now, if we rewind to your fitness days when you were selling the packages, were you selling a monthly subscription? You got paid residuals on that, or was it one pop? Like if you sold, a group of sessions that were going to be used over 6 months, are you being paid every month?
On my PT days?
Yeah. I'm saying how did you discover the MRR, monthly recurring revenue model? Was it because of your PT days, or is this something that just happened?
Good question. One of my mentors, Bedros Koulian, in 2010.
Shout out to Bedros. Yeah.
Man
I love
up.
that dude.
Yeah. He's been a good friend and probably one of my most influential mentors over the years. I've hired him numerous times. But yeah, he introduced me to this concept of MRR. And I was like, fascinating. I wake up to money on the first of every month. That sounds like freedom. And so I think I learned it more from the internet marketing guys.
Okay.
And it was all low ticket. It was like, $10 a month, 47 a month, 97 a month. But I mean, I had one program with over 5,000 people paying me $47 a month called Maximize Your Muscle for a monthly workout program. And then we built Hypertrophy Max up to over 3,000 people paying $97 a month. And these people were getting a new workout shipped to them each month. And that was I just realized that workout people are very simple. And here's a big take home is like workout people want new workouts.
Yeah.
It wasn't any more complicated.
And they want it programmed for them because most guys, even the guys like us, have been in the game a long time. And we know enough to go in there and know what we're doing. But I absolutely love when someone says, here's what you do for the next 12 weeks. This many reps. This is your set. This is like, it's a different game when you go in there and it's mapped.
Actually, you just dropped a $1 million word, program. I always distinguish between workouts and programs. A workout is just a random workout. You can find workouts anywhere. But what I wrote were programs. And the workouts were skillfully organized from phase to phase. So that was like the concept I sold.
Yeah.
I coined it phase building. And I put the little TM mark on it to position that you're not just buying another workout. I'm not just shipping you random workouts in the month. This is a full-blown 16-month program, and you can't do month 16 until you go through the first 15 months. So that was the way the programs were designed. All back to my program design days, and guys just ate it up because, people love the continuation.
There's another sexy concept in there that maybe the audience isn't picking up too. It's called future pacing. And when you get somebody in month 1 and you tell them it's 16 months, but to get to 16, you have to do 15. To get to 15, you have to do 14.
Yes.
So you have created a future pacing, concept in their brain where they're in there for 16 months, the end,
Exactly.
and you don't have to, and you can still sell it on month to month. So they don't feel like it's a scary commitment because you made them pay for 16 months, but you definitely created a scenario that's got a high sticky rate on that MRR, just off of that.
Yeah. Our stick rate was well over 9 months and normally on that price point, it was like 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
But the positioning, people wanted to complete the whole program. So that was the fitness stuff. Through those days, I got married when I was 30, 2010, and then, started a family, 2013, then 2015, I had my second baby, and then my third just came in 2018. So 2017, 18 was when I was kind of coming to the tail end of my fitness stuff. Like I'd been doing it for over 12 years, and you just get kind of tired of talking about the same things. So I was getting asked by a lot of people, do you teach how to build a fitness business? And I had actually run a mastermind in 2010. That's a separate story. And I was doing these 2-day events called 0 to 6 Figure Formula, where I was charging $2,000 to have people come and learn how to go from 0 to 6 figures in 2 days. Like I'd just map everything out. And I'd have like anywhere from like 8 guys to 40 people show up. And I was marketing to my fitness lists. So like, this is crazy. These are people that bought a muscle building program, but now want to learn how to make money like I did. And after I did that for about 2 years, Bedros asked me, how come you don't have your own mastermind? And I had a poor experience running a mastermind back in 2010, which is another story. But I said, I don't really know how to do it properly. And that's a lot of money to charge. And, that's a lot of responsibility. If somebody gives me, 15 to 20 grand, I have to mentor them. What if they don't make money? And what about all my fitness stuff? And he said, well, I can teach you. And Bezos was the guy. Him and Craig Valentine had the biggest fitness business mastermind at that point. It was about 2017.
Where is Craig now? Is he?
He lives in
Mexico somewhere,
Mexico,
right?
yeah. And they had over 100 people. So I felt like that was the standard. No one I didn't know anybody who had a mastermind with over 100 people. I was like, that's insane.
And you had been to masterminds in the past, right?
I've never seen one that large with all just fitness people. And Bezos was kind of like, I knew he wasn't like fully in it, and I could tell there was Craig, like they were running it because nobody else was really doing it. But I saw like an opportunity to be the next guy and to kind of take the reins. And I saw a gap in the marketplace where a lot of people wanted to learn how to be online fitness coaches. And he taught me how to launch a mastermind. And within a year, I went from 0 to 75 members, and then it grew to over 300 members. And
this is 2017-ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, over the next few years, it grew to, I believe, one of the largest fitness business masterminds in the space. And
I went to your live event, and I know that wasn't even your largest, but like it was. No, I went to the private thing at your house and spoke there, but like I went to the bigger one I think that was your like high end VIP guys, right?
The Nashville, you spoke to the high end VIPs,
but the one at the Gaylord, in Nashville, that was
yeah.
But that was still impressive, like, especially niche down to one industry. There's guys that can fill a room, but they've got 1,700 types of business people in there. So like niching down like that is, to me, the way to go.
And now there's a couple fitness business coaches that are all running events, and I think we've all kind of carved out like our messaging, and our personalities are all pretty different. So it's interesting. I was just at one of my buddies, Jordan Duggar's mastermind event, and his room looked completely different than my room. And I was hanging out with my buddy Phil Graham in Ireland a few months ago. And,
I remember him.
I just asked him like, do you ever get people from my world like asking about your stuff? And like, we rarely have any crossover. It's really interesting. So, and then you have another buddy, Brian Mark, and he, he's another Canadian, but our personalities, like I'm, 44 with 3 kids, and he's pretty young, drops the F-bomb a lot. So I think our personalities are just different. We're all kind of teaching, I would say, very similar.
The same message, different messenger. Because
I would say you wouldn't see much difference in the deliverables. I'd say you see difference in the communities and who's actually in the room, and that's really the due to the message of the face of the brand. So I think we've really just catered to a certain type of person that's looking now to build a better business and not necessarily a bigger business. And that kind of brings us to like where we are now, and how my personal situation really influenced where I'm going now and where I want to take people.
Yeah, and we're going to jump into that, but I definitely hope, and you're going to have to definitely repeat that line, because it's powerful when you unpack it, building a better business, not a bigger business. Because for years, and both of us included, like bigger is better. I need to hit 7 figures. Okay, cool. 7's cool. What does 8 look like? Okay, what does it look like to exit this thing? How do I, it's definitely, we're both similarly aged. I'm 43, so like we're sitting in the same spot of our life, and man, have things changed. So it is. Let's talk about that pivot, right, on your journey to building a better business, not necessarily a bigger business.
Yeah. Well, you really need to understand, I think, the context. I think a lot of guys can relate to this, but my fitness business really blew up during COVID. I think a lot of people's did, because
blew up in the wrong way or the right way?
In a good way.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, every personal trainer on planet Earth lost their job pretty much, and was looking for a guy like me who could teach them how to pivot online. So I was positioned perfectly for the influx of trainers, and then trainers were positioned perfectly because no one had access to their gyms. So trainers got spoiled. I got spoiled. You didn't even need to be a good marketer through the pandemic. People are pulling out their credit cards, just dropping crazy amounts of money. So you didn't even need to try. You just have to make a CTA. And now, like...
Hold on, define CTA. I assume my audience knows what it is, but just drop it for me.
Yeah, call to action. Okay. Like, hey, I'm looking for 5 guys who want to lose 20 pounds in the next 12 weeks without, drugs, bogus supplements, and in less time. DM me results if you're interested. Like, you just have to say something like that, and you get hand raises, inbound messages, book calls, close them for $1,500 to $2,000 for a 12-week program, and coaches got spoiled. And then last year, things really, really changed. I've seen a lot of people, revenues have gone backwards. A lot of people's businesses have shut down. And I kind of mentally told my students, like, this is the year of the redesign, because you actually now need to be a good marketer. And there's just been so many people who've like launched business coaching programs. Everyone's a coach now. It's like there's no one else to coach.
Yeah.
Everyone's a coach. So who do you coach? So, and I always kid around. I love Alex Hormozi, but I just kind of joke around where when that book 100 Million Offers came out, I feel like it helped, but it also hurt the industry quite a bit because everyone started coming out with these obnoxious guarantees, crazy guarantees on like business coaching programs, and they were all from people that overpromised, underdelivered. So now today, like I was just talking to my sales guy, and like it's like, yeah, I got a guy who wants to have 7 more calls before he makes a decision. I'm like, are there even 7 fitness business coaches in the world? Like 7 calls with who? Like having 7 calls before you make a decision? He's like, yeah, he's looking at all of his options. I'm like,
Then he's not for me. I mean, I'm just done right there. You know
that's
what I mean?
crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the amount of time it takes to actualize a deal now, like we're going to have to nurture this guy for 2 or 3 months before he makes a decision. And the game's just changed. I call like what we're living in is a bit of a trust recession. And there's a lot of people who've just been burned by bad business coaches and now are jaded and skeptical. And they're taking their sweet time, rightfully so, before deciding on who do I want to hire next.
I understand healthy skepticism, but I'm also not a fan of like if you can't hop that fence from interested to committed, and again, hurt people. So they've been burned, and these are the guys that drop the nasty comments and they assume the worst and so on. But to your point, rightfully so, because of all the I'm going to say shitheads out there causing the damage. But it's still I mean, to have to nurture a guy's 7 different conversations to me. It's not my guy, not my people. You know what I mean?
And we tell people that. I would say like if you come into a coaching program and you can't figure out how to get like 2 nuggets to like 5x your investment, you're an idiot. Now that sounds really harsh, but like that's the mindset you need coming into a coaching program. I mean, I got burned $55,000 a few years ago with my wife's money when I was trying to grow her stuff with Facebook ads and with this Facebook agency, and it was a complete scam. It took me a year to figure it out. I felt so stupid. It was a big source of contention, and I tell guys like that $55,000 taught me though one concept: trust, but always verify. Mm-hmm. I never verified if these people were even real. When I went to take them to court, I looked up their names. The only article I found was about another couple who got scammed, and I couldn't even find their address. And I realized, how stupid am I? I didn't even tell that story for years and years and years. I didn't even tell any of my business buddies.
Yeah, because you probably feel this big, but at the same time, there's like, I just love that the takeaway was there was a lesson, and otherwise it's just.
Yeah, so now I don't hire anybody without interviewing at least 3 people
that they've worked with.
And I get some
due diligence,
trust, but I always verify. I think Ronald Reagan said that.
No, it's a powerful. It like you said, it goes. It's almost again shame on you. Like if you've been burned multiple times and you're not trusting but verifying, then you're just going to keep learning that lesson until it stings enough to trust but verify.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into some of the context that changed. You know, if you're willing to. Like obviously, I know some of your story, but like when did you have this? And maybe you can even put a date on it, or a moment. When did you have this moment where you were like, all right, bigger is not better? Like, what have I been building all these years? What is it really for? Like, what was that?
Yeah, so, I was trying to keep up with some guys that were growing to $1 million months and then moving on to $2 million months. And I was like, hey, we can do this too. And we were moving in that direction too. And it was leading up to our first Nashville event. It was after the pandemic, so there was no events. Like no one had been to an event, I think, in 2+ years, something like that. So it was a big one. We had a lot of people show up, and it was Nashville, April 2022.
Yeah, this is how we actually connected. My content guy came out and filmed for you because you had a guy back out or something.
That's right.
And Colin,
he linked us up. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how we connected. Yeah. So that event went amazing. We had like all of our students there, an amazing lineup. It turned out to be a $1.7 million weekend, which was completely mind-blowing to me, and it was like the highlight of my business career. And it was weird because after the event, I remember us going out to celebrate on Broadway and crack some champagne, and we all went out and just had a great night. But after that, I was like weirded out because I didn't like really feel anything. I was like, this is cool, but I felt pressure to do it again. And I told my buddies, and they were like, good job, got the pat on the back. But I almost started the next month stressed out. One, because we bit off way more than we could chew.
From like a deliverable standpoint?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
we
Because
launched
I've been
an
there.
offer that wasn't fully dialed in. And we had some really good quality members ask for refunds. And a couple people back out. And these are $50,000 to $60,000 agreements.
Tickets, yeah.
And those, I never felt like, I've had people drop out. We've had delinquents, stuff like that. But I never had anything like that.
Where you took it personal, yeah.
I'm like, what is going on here? And we'd brought way too many members on at that event. We had to hire a ton of coaches to fulfill. And we didn't fully, there were good coaches, but like they didn't go through a proper onboarding process. And long story short, we started to lose members. And at the same time, one of my top students decided to become a fitness business coach and started poaching our community, like violently, like to a point where like he pretended he was one of our coaches. And we had a exit of a lot of people. So this was happening at the same time. And then I started putting a lot of pressure on my head coach, like what's going on. And I pushed him too hard and he quit. So I had these three things all happening, and I had this massive low too. I didn't know, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, she explained it to me how I had a dopamine crash after the event. So these four things were all brewing. And then let's bring in my marriage now. We haven't talked about that.
Before you get there, I just want to explain the dopamine crash I just want to just explain to my audience too. There's a principle out there called the law of rhythm. And it's specific to chemicals in that when your dopamine goes up a certain level, it has to go down in that same level. That's what the law of rhythm states. So it's not like, so for example, the dopamine is all about the chase. So you were chasing this big thing. You had this event, the 1.7 million, but the dopamine lead up was up until you got the 1.7 and now you're on Broadway. And then the dopamine has to crash, but not to baseline. So let's just call it for number's sake. You went up 100 clicks, 100 points of dopamine. And then you have to go down 100, and that feeling is actual like clinical depression for a certain amount of time, and it's frightening, and people don't understand that because it's anyway.
I didn't come out of it. I told her like, how long is this gonna last?
Yeah,
it took, I don't even know, like months and months. But then what happened was I felt like I had a good marriage. I knew I didn't have a great marriage. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of dysfunctional communication. If you watched her and I on social media, you would have probably thought Vince has got the perfect marriage, though. I was the guy who gave marriage advice. And in November 2022, I was not emotionally regulated. All this stuff that you teach your guys to get together, I would have been a perfect client for you. I was not managing my emotions, and I was not treating my family well. I was neglecting my kids. I was treating her poorly, and this had been like building for years, where she wanted a relationship, and she kept saying it. Now, she didn't know how to also show up in a way to get what she wanted, and I didn't know how to show up in a way to give her what she wanted. We figured this all out after what I'm about to share happened. So in November 2022, my daughter, Amelia, was not listening to me. And this was like a common theme. Like my kids wouldn't listen to me.
How old is this?
Amelia would have been 8 years old.
Okay.
And I had it. I was really frustrated. And I was more so frustrated because like my kids wouldn't respect me. And I would try and get their attention. I'd raise my voice. So it was one night where I felt like it was necessary to take her upstairs and discipline her, and she wouldn't listen. And I grabbed her by the ear, and I didn't hurt her, but that flipped her off. And I was so distraught. She says, if you don't change, then we're done. And she actually just told me a couple of days ago what I said. I don't even remember this. She says, I don't need any help. And when I told her I don't need any help, I followed that up by saying, I don't love you and I don't love the kids.
Oof.
And I said that. And when she said back was like, this is the first time you've been honest in your life. So without going through like details of the marriage, the fact was that was her reality with me. Now, I don't feel that was fully accurate, but her reality was that I didn't want to be with her and I didn't even want to be a dad. And when I said those words to her, she mentally checked out. And for 2 weeks, you would have thought that I would have said, whoa, 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 I didn't mean that. Like, we need to go get help. I'm so sorry. I did nothing. And in those 2 weeks, she mentally checked out. And
so just to clarify, you said those, powerful words, hurtful-ish, right? And depending on how you receive them. But for two, because like you said, 99% of men be like, all right, let me put that back in my mouth. That never happened. Let me course correct. Let me apologize. So 2 weeks go by and you never disavowed those words is what we're hearing, right?
no.
Okay.
And then something happened, which I don't need to go into the details, but that woke me up.
Okay.
And I said, whoa, 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 we need to work on this. And she said, it's too late. The damage is done. And she hasn't shifted her story for 22 months. It's too late. And, I went away for a couple weeks to Tennessee, came back around Christmas time, and realized, I thought that like this was just like a 3-week thing. And she says, no, I'm done. And when she said I'm done, it was like I actually kind of believed her. And it was the first time I'd ever felt like true rejection. And I went crazy in the house. I smashed a lot of stuff, lots of doors, didn't hurt her or anything like that. But I completely lost control to a point where it was very scary. I didn't recognize the person that had just done that. And I'm like, I need help. So I said, I'm going to go get help. And she said, it's too late. It doesn't matter. You go get help to help yourself and for the kids, but like, I'm done.
In all the years of your marriage, you didn't have a history of this,
No.
of losing it to this level?
There was a few incidences.
But not, like you said, you didn't recognize this man in this moment.
So December 2022, I'm going to answer that. I got a therapist and I told her the situation, and the first thing I wanted to understand was why I couldn't have a relationship and why I was so disconnected. And through, a process she took me through, I found out that I never even been connected to myself. And the first time I experienced extreme loss, disappointment, and rejection was in high school as a runner when we blew this big championship race. And she brought me back to that day and went through this entire process of asking if I'd ever spoken to that little guy, that 15-year-old. And I said no. And as soon as I said no, I started to get really emotional. And she said, do you want to talk to him right now? And I started to just cry. And I probably cried like up until that point in my life 4 times. So at the age of 42, I probably cried 4 times. And I know all 4 times. And she says, what do you want to tell him? And I started to try and communicate with my 15-year-old self. And I just completely broke down and started sobbing for 45 minutes. And I kept trying to like, what's happening to me? I'm not faking this. This is like, I've never cried. Like, I don't know how to stop crying. And she said, you're grieving. I said, what am I grieving? And she said, you're grieving loss for the first time. You've never grieved all the loss that you've experienced. And you've built up this shell of being this successful guy where you've put no currency on relationships because you've built this persona that like, look at me, I'm successful on my own. And that's when I realized that I was completely disconnected from myself, that I couldn't even connect with anybody else. And that's when I started the awakening of reconnecting my heart and my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward a year and a half, I've spent over $150,000 on you name it, like all sorts of therapy and coaching and brain stuff, and just trying to understand how the heck did this happen. And a big, a big part of it was just realizing that I'd built my identity. Remember, we talked about at the start, I was always trying to figure out like, who am I? I was building an identity around a successful guy. I wanted to be liked, just like back in high school. I was trying to fit in with the Italian guys. Well, here I was trying to fit in with the entrepreneurs. I was trying to be like, look at me, look how much we're doing. And I built my whole identity in what I do and not in who I am.
Do you feel maybe you attached your self-worth to your net worth at some point, or
100%.
to your working groups? Yeah.
100%. And that's why I couldn't ever come home. Like it wasn't a joke, but like the joke was kind of, you know, if Vince had a good sales day, he's in a good mood. And my happiness was based on how much money.
And, sure.
I put all my hope and all my confidence in how much was in the bank. And, you know, in the process, which made this really confusing was that, you know, leading up to the separation, that's when we separated, November 2022, we had just built a dream home here in Franklin, Tennessee. I just got us an O1 visa. We had enrolled the kids into school, and like we were planning to exit the country. So I knew things weren't great, but I didn't think they were that bad. So when I woke up and said, I'm ready to go, like I'm ready to change. I want to work on this marriage. Let's have a therapeutic separation. Let's work on this. Like I took full ownership of my 50%, and you know, I have to just, you know, watch how I, you know, frame all this. But like you know, for her, she was done. In her mind, she'd already tried and she got nothing in return, and she wasn't willing to risk another 10 years or 20 years the way she felt the previous 10 years went. And she just wanted to separate and go completely different ways. And my nature, I'm super stubborn. I did not accept that. And now looking back, I feel like I should have actually moved on, but I didn't feel that's what she wanted. I felt like she wanted me to fight, you know, for her, because she didn't feel like I fought for her during the marriage. And
it's a tough place to be, because I think that's a very powerful thought that most men would hold on to. Okay, well, is this, I won't say it's a trap, but it's like, am I supposed to just, you know, 10 years we just throw this away off of, or do I fight for her because I think I'm supposed to be fine? And then obviously, what does God want me to do, right?
I was using math, right?
Yeah.
But we have a house, but we have 3 kids, but we have over 8 figures in net worth together. But we built all this, like, but I was using math. For a woman don't respond to math. Like A plus A equals, you know, women are emotional. Like, she didn't feel in her heart. All of the math didn't add up to what she felt in her heart. And, you know, I you know, pursued, and I tried to like fix everything and bulldoze, which is what I did in the marriage, and realized that's not going to work. So while I am trying to save my marriage and now get used to this life of seeing my kids half the time, I'm still trying to run my business. And I'm telling you, there were months and months and months. I only am here because of the grace of God and the mercy and my team. And I honestly have no idea how we've made it, because there were so many days and months that I was just checked out. I did not want to get out of bed. Nothing seemed important. All this stuff about scaling, it just honestly made me sick to my stomach. When I hear people talk about like how much money they're making, it made me sick to my stomach. I'm like, and that was, sadly, if you want to look at it this way, I needed that level of pain
100%
to wake up and realize that this is actually not what I want. I actually want to be a great dad. And up until November 2022, I was enduring my kids. I was not enjoying my kids. My wife was more of like, hey, it was all about my identity. Look, I have a wife.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to figure out how to build these new identities. And I think that's what hurts so much, that, you know, she's taking a part of my identity with her, because my identity was, look, I'm a great husband and father who makes a lot of money.
You can't say
and that was my
now.
identity.
Yeah, sure.
And that identity's been ripped away from me. I don't have that identity anymore. So I'm in this process of trying to find a new identity.
Which has been a pattern your whole life.
Yes.
Let me ask you this real quick, because I want to make sure we don't gloss over, because you said, you know, it could be, sadly, it could be said this way, but I would argue that's the only way this works is if you feel enough pain. It's like, so earlier when you brought up, you know, the conversation with your 15-year-old self and how difficult that was, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, but the reality is, there's a gentleman named David Hawkins who has another book called Letting Go. And like the whole concept is we don't give ourselves permission to experience things like grieving and loss. Like you actually, there's cycles in your life where you have to grieve your former self.
Yeah.
And people, that's such a weird woo-woo foreign concept, but until you grieve those losses, you don't actually step into the version that you're supposed to be. And so, I mean, I would argue that pain is just an experience, and it's 100% necessary to move away from something or move through something.
Yeah. Pain is inevitable, but the suffering is a choice. And I've chosen to, a lot of people hear me post stuff on social media. They say he sounds like the depressed divorce guy, and it might have come across like that, but this experience cracked me open so badly that I don't want to forget this pain. Like I don't ever want to go through this again.
Well, you speak about only having cried 4 times, but I've known you for a little while now, and I saw you tear up from stage at the larger part of your event, right in front of at least a couple hundred people, with no problem, by the way. And I think I want to applaud you for that, because when I was at your house, I don't know, I've been to your house several times now, but there was one moment where you were really going through it, and I felt bad for this, and I think I communicated this, but I'll do it now too. I was kind of grinning, and it's because I feel like a lot of your story, I'm probably experienced this I'm on 5 years now, right? I'll be at 6 years in December. And so it's like, I know what's possible. I know what's ahead for you, and I'm actually already watching it. And so like, it's tough, because when you're in the pit, it's hard for me to sit there and smile, but it was hard for me not to, because I know this is such a massive part of your journey and your growth that I've seen nothing but beautiful things happen as a result of you leaning into this vulnerability, leaning into this pain, where most guys would just curl in a ball and give up, or whatever you call it. So anyway, I just want to make that clear point. Like when I first started this thing for you guys listening, and I said, like, everyone knows, know, like, and trust. Like the guy that you can trust, like to me, the most powerful man in the room is the one with nothing to hide. And 99% of men have everything to hide, and they have these social media lives, these Instagram lives, etc. But when someone's really willing to just literally just wide open talk about anything, to the detriment of his income, to the detriment of losing some team members, to the detriment of people making corny comments, like he sounds like the depressed divorce dude, like when he's just processing his life live in real time, to me that's power. That's a superpower. Because 99% of men, especially, that's so that's weakness. That's I'll let you go. I don't want to cut you off. My bad.
Yeah, and I no, it's great. My team has tried to, like, they said, Vince, you got to stop. Like, they keep telling me, like, it's too late now. It's all baked into my content now.
Yeah,
there's no going back now, because I did that before. I did the fake. I did the, hey, look at me, look how I did the one-dimensional guy.
Yeah,
I already did that. It's not like I don't get the concept. I get it. Hey, keep your personal, get people to see you as this, force of strength that they can trust, so they can give their money. I get all that, but I have also seen what that causes. And to me, it's not worth trying to project something that is disconnecting you from yourself and from loved ones. And for me, I want to go at a pace that's sustainable. So like, the whole thing with like a better business versus bigger business, like it's crazy. Like I didn't even need all that money. And, I hear the other side of the coin, but like you're sacrificing your potential. Now you're making it about you. Like I invest all my money back into my business because I want to have maximum impact on the world. I don't know if I believe that, to be honest, because I used to say that stuff too. And it was just an excuse to keep working hard, to keep building this identity to protect this little insecure boy that had never dealt with all of his hurt. And so I have compassion. I don't look at guys critically when I see that. I look at them as like, they just haven't been cracked open yet.
I'll say that's where they're at in their journey, and they don't know what they don't know. Yeah.
Judging them. I'm like, this guy's going to get cracked open, and he's going to realize all this stuff he's been saying is just
and it's going to be the most beautiful and painful experience of his life. And if he loses everything, that's okay, because he's going to, he has everything to gain. So that's when I talk about the character arc of the male entrepreneur, everybody has these moments, like, eventually you get to a place where you accumulate enough stuff where philanthropy becomes a big part of that, so you really do put impact over income. So I see these different phases, and it's just I'm like, I don't know if enamored's the right word, but I'm definitely awestruck at like how men go about their world. And until you can drop the ego and get wide open, even to the potential detriment of all your money, bro, like
Right.
it won't happen for you, not to the extent that you want it to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think what I'm trying to help guys figure out is like, how do you build a business with a level of peace in the process? How do you build it with like, what's wrong with having a more profit rich business, right? What's wrong with having more predictability? Why does it have to be chaos? How do we operate from a place of calm? And, in this process, I had to examine all the things that led to this pursuit of more and more and more, thinking like we had more than enough. Like, it's crazy to say, but, Flavia and I, we never sat down once in maybe 14 years to work on a budget. My brother, Adrian, my middle brother, goes, you guys didn't operate with a budget. You're not normal people. Most normal people have a budget. And you guys just spent in excess and were insulated in money and experiences, and you ran from all your problems. Maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, you didn't deal with any of your problems. When you're on a budget, you actually have to talk about if you're spending money on Friday night. Like, we didn't have any of those conversations, and we just built bigger houses, went on more trips, and on the outside, it looked like, wow, these guys spend so much time together, but it was all, I wouldn't say it was all. It's, I've been learning how to like detect lies, but I do believe we were called here, and I really believe that we're meant to be here, and this is far better for my children in the future. I'm still processing if this was my desire, if this is God's will. But now I pray with like true surrender. Like, God, if this door is shutting, like, I believe you'll give me the best. I believe this is the best, but what do I know? So we just swept all of our problems under the rug. And, we were that couple that, and it all came from stuff before we even knew each other. After we did all the therapy and everything, we found out like we both had a pattern of like, hey, we'll deal with this later. We'll deal with this later. Because it was too painful to deal with. Like, why are we trying to get bigger? Like, we should slow things down.
Interesting you say that too, because most couples do. Every couple that finally gets together, whether it's in your 20s or 30s or even high school sweethearts, you're coming with a series of baggage that, and for the most part, it's like, you unzip your backpack once in a while and you dump all over her, and hey, can you hold my shit this week? Because I'm, you know what I mean? And
Right.
then vice versa, and until you both are willing to unzip, put it all on the table, and say, this is who I am at my core. This is the things I'm horrible at. Like, these are the things I'm still processing or need to process.
Yeah.
Let's get to work.
And I hold nothing against her. Like, we just brought a lot of unprocessed baggage into the marriage. We hardly knew each other. We got engaged after 6 months. And there was, I would say, virtually no vulnerability in our relationship. And what we both wanted, when we went through the therapy, what we both found out what we actually wanted was deep intimacy. And guess what the pathway to deep intimacy is? Vulnerability.
Yeah, 100%.
So, like, why are you surprised that you don't have like a deep connected relationship? Because there was no safety to talk about anything. And
that's an important word, though. I think where guys are missing, they don't feel they have a safe space to be vulnerable, and it's not always in their house, right? And then the woman, that's all the woman ever wants, is for her to establish and that deep connection and intimacy. She has to feel safe, and if she doesn't feel safe, she never truly opens up, and then that connection is not possible. Everybody communicates, very few connect, and that's a John Maxwell line.
Yeah. And I think what you're doing is amazing. I see, I dumped too much on her where she felt like I was blaming her or like I was expecting her to fix things when I just didn't manage my shit. There was a lot of stuff I should have brought to other dudes and just say, hey guys, I need your help. Like, I need a man's help with this. I can't bring this to my wife.
Yeah.
And when you do that, I mean, you kill the attraction, right? She wants to be with a real man, and a real man deals with his stuff. Now, that doesn't mean a guy can't like open up, but I think
you could be extremely vulnerable and still have like supreme masculine energy.
Yeah, I know. I definitely didn't get there.
Yeah. Well, but the reality is the guy that has cried 4 times in however many years was probably not the most open, right? So I mean, that was
right.
Just wasn't there.
And I would shut down. I would disconnect, and she had her way of disconnecting. I had my way of disconnecting, and then going through the therapy, you start to realize that the way that relationships become stronger is through trauma. When like two people go through a very
Trauma bonding. Yeah, it's very intense.
We didn't have any real, and I'm like, that's why I think I fought so hard, because I'm like, this can bring us back together. Like we never actually dealt with anything together. And again, I was doing math. I was trying to get her to see it logically, but you know, from what I understand, like if a woman's heart goes cold, like this is like the lesson to most guys. Like I'm not saying a woman's heart can't soften again, or
they have a tipping point or a breaking point.
Yeah,
and it is game over.
Sometimes there is a point where there's just a lot of damage, and I do believe God can work miracles. But like at the same time, sometimes you might just have to like, this was not meant to be, and it's very hard when there's kids involved. So, you know, I share all this because there are consequences to your decisions, to ignoring warning signs, to not like defining success earlier on in life, and to, I'd say, choosing the wrong role models. I think there's a lot of great guys out there, but you know, if a guy doesn't have what you want, like in terms of the marriage, and the problem is you don't actually know.
100%, because like you said, they're Instagram flexing.
Everyone said, Vince, you've got a great marriage. And I'm like, you didn't know what was going on. What do you mean I have a great marriage? You saw what I post on social media. So you see all these like, you know, icons out there who got these marriage seminars, and they're buff and they got beautiful wives, and they look like that's what I want. I hope that's what they've got. I have no idea though. No clue.
And I think a lot of men end up, you know, you wake up and it's almost too late because you were so busy running someone else's race. And you know what I mean? Like the worst thing in life is not to fail. It's to be successful at the thing that does not matter.
Right.
And so it's where a lot of men find themselves. They wake up and they're like, you know, I checked this was me, the same thing. I checked every box. I got the wife, the picket fence, the kids, you know, the car, the tattoos, the muscles. Like I make eight figure, whatever. I did it all. And like, I'm miserable. Like I had the biggest dopamine crash of all time, you know? So let me ask you this. You see the word behind me. I ask every guest this, and I know we've had conversations around this. I am obviously known for dropping F-bombs. It costs me some stage gigs sometimes. My favorite word on the planet Earth is feedback, because I think feedback, when you learn how to process it from, I like to say facts over feelings. I think feelings should be a part of it, but facts should come first. But how like, I mean, obviously you gave us a tremendous amount of feedback to process, but for you, how does the concept of feedback show up in your world, or how do you process it? Like, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think feedback is putting yourself in a position of humility. You know, I don't think God can bless anybody who's not humble, right? Where you're not in a place to receive feedback. There might be a book called Feedback is the Breakfast of Champions, or maybe that's one of my dad's lines, but I've always been coachable. I've always been teachable. I think it's one of my superpowers. If anything, I sometimes think I forget to take feedback from myself. I think that I had so many voices in my life that one of the things the therapist had me do early on was like, I need you to walk 45 minutes a day, not necessarily for exercise.
Zero noise.
Yeah. Zero noise. And like, start listening to your
what was your talk track?
Inner wisdom. And like, we all have inner wisdom. And I always thought that was like woo woo, but like that wasn't spiritual or godly, but I'm like, no.
But you have a unique journey, because you have played the game harder than most when it comes to coaches, mentors. Like, you've always had people in your corner to basically answer most of the questions maybe that you had, including your father, right?
Yeah.
The pastor for X amount of years, right? So like, the reality is, when you have all these external talking heads to go to, how often are you listening to yourself?
Exactly. And one of the things I realized when I did, DMA? What was the thing called?
MDMA?
Yeah. I had that administered last year, and I did it like properly with somebody who walked me through the whole process. It was like a whole day process, and she took like 6 hours of notes. It felt like a 30-minute session. And in that experience, I remember like looking at all my life events where my life changed in a positive way. And interesting, they were all my own decisions. Like, they were all things that were counterintuitive to like other people told me to do. They were all things that I'd done. I said, I'm going to do this because it was an idea I had. Now, I believe, you know, those ideas came probably from elsewhere too, but like there were prompts that I listened to. So feedback, man.
That's a beautiful one though, by the way, because I coach men for a living, and one of the biggest detriments I see to their groth is a lack of self-efficacy or self-esteem, which is basically your belief in your ability to get things done, and obviously your ability, just your overall belief of who you are, and that comes from not trusting that intuition, that voice. You know, so you may scream out loud, "I'm going to lose 20 pounds," and as soon as it comes out of your mouth, you've already doubted yourself because you have a track record of not executing or seeing something through. Whereas you had an opportunity to go back and unpack several decisions over the course of your life and say, you know what?
Yeah.
That dude in my head, he's kind of got something going. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm gonna listen to that guy for a little while. Let's see what that life looks like. You know what I mean?
And prioritizing that time for feedback. So, for me, I think feedback's crucial. I think in a couple departments from yourself, and then also, as a man of faith, I get feedback from the Word of God.
100%.
I believe that is God inspired, written by man, but God inspired, fully inspired by God, fully written by man. I believe that book, basic instructions before leaving Earth, there is a playbook for how we're to play our lives, and that you can experience God's voice through that book. So I listen to his feedback. And I also believe in listening to feedback from other men. Now, unfortunately, a lot of dudes' advice is pretty bad advice these days.
Yeah. Do you have like a filter that you go like, core values are in alignment, or they, because like you said, they may appear to be where you want to be or have something you don't have, but it could be BS, right?
Yeah.
So like, how are you, what's the level of discernment from another man's opinion or
By their fruit.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Do they have something to show for what they're talking about? Like,
and this isn't cars and houses. This is a level 10 marriage. This is a connection with their daughter that maybe it's difficult to establish, or right. This is not just things.
I'll look at their actual fruit. I think of my brother Adrian. He's a great dad, and I just look at how he spends his time with his kids. And he talks about like being a great dad, but he's on the soccer field, and he's taking his kids out running, and they're going on camping trips, and like he's invested. He's like his time reflects his words. So I think I just look at how does somebody spend their time, because the time reveals your priorities.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Don't tell me one thing and then like you talk about how you love your family, but like I never see anything with you and your family, or I never see you doing stuff with your family. Like you're always on your phone or distracted, or like you got a babysitter. I'm like, so I would just like examine the fruits of their life. Do they have something to show for what they're saying? And I think it's as simple as that.
Oh, I love that. That was, again, we asked that question a lot, but I love the 3 different breakdowns and also the elaboration of if you're going to take it from another dude, analyze the fruit, because that is an excellent filter to run that
Yeah,
through. So.
I look at their relationships too. I think, if somebody who's got deeper, more connected relationships, that's something to be said. I think a wise man understands that wisdom is like actually having good relationships. That's something that hasn't come easy for me. I like to be on my own. I like to work, and I have friends, but like, going deep with a few people, it's like, where's the payoff? It's like, cause I've been conditioned and trained to like, get my validation from people that don't know me.
Yeah.
Rather than like people that actually know me.
At a deep level, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is a challenge for men. I don't feel like you should beat yourself up for that, but it's good to have some awareness of like, do I have a couple, brothers that I would go to, 4 a.m. brothers,
Yeah. Well, you definitely broke it down eloquently. You, by the way, 7 years with the 7-Figure Mastermind. You have an event coming up, so I want to make sure we plug that before we sign off here. This will air sometime early October, and then you have an event in November. What's the dates?
Yeah, November 7th to 9th in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, it's our next 7-Figure Fit Pro Mastermind.
Okay.
We got a room for 88 folk. We open it up to our members, and we open up some spots to non-members to come test drive it, sit in, experience basically how to grow a better fitness business. And we got a great guest speaker, John Matson, who's from Scottsdale, Arizona.
I know Matson.
Superhuman.
Superhuman. Yep.
Yeah, he's crushing it. So he's going to come teach us how they're scaling, and maybe I'll impart some wisdom on him on how not to go too fast.
Yeah. His ads are all over the place. He's very particular. This is it, and this is what you make, and this is what you do, and this is who I am. Yeah. Interesting. All right. So where can they find that if they are interested in test driving this bad boy?
I'll get you a link to put in the show notes.
Okay.
Yeah. It'd probably be 7figuremastermind.ca/Arizona.
Oh, that sounds like a lot. So we'll get you a link. We'll put it in the show notes. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Vince, I appreciate you, brother. How long are you in town for?
I've been here for 5 weeks. I drive home on Friday, so
Okay.
2 days from now, and then I got my kids, and they're back in school back in Toronto, so back into the routine there.
What's that drive? 12, 14 hours?
It's 12 hours.
Cool.
Yeah, I knock it out.
That's 2
stops.
audibles. That's no big deal.
It's actually a great drive.
Exactly.
I've really learned to like enjoy it.
Well, awesome, brother. Thank you for coming out. That's my man, Vince. This has been another episode of Feedback, and we'll see you when we see you.